end result of the Legendary Armory will be felt on the most basic markets for common crafting material.
Weekend millionaires, just trying to be cool. Yeah, one day we'll be there, till Monday comes again. We're weekend millionaires.
There is gonna be a lot of stuff to talk about. Tweets by Gilbert. Yo, that's very nice. That's looking good. It's looking very good. I need to do that giveaway chest code thing, actually, because I got some of them. I need to do that. Okay, so. Right here, we have the dev line. So as I said, my plan right now is to do what the other streamers are doing, you know, which means pretty much making a video live on stream, and the idea is that I'm gonna talk about the Armory patch and what it has changed for the economy. For all the people who are going to be watching this on YouTube, know that you can catch me live at twitch.tv/Samajesse. It is almost the same as the YouTube channel name. You can find a link in the description if you ever fancy that. Today, I'm going to be talking about the latest patch notes, which are the ones for the Legendary Armory, because there are a few points that are rather interesting, and then there are some implications for the economy, and that is what interests most of my viewers, and is exactly the reason why we're here. The part that is, yeah, of course you can go for the high YouTube. Yes, you can. I mean, the idea is that your questions are extremely valuable. So if you have questions to ask, I'm going to be answering them during this live, and it's going to be a basis for communication for the YouTube people as well. So we've got the Twisted Marionette back, defeated long ago by Tyria's Defender. The Twisted Marionette was one of the demented Scarlet Briar's most infamous creation. I don't exactly like the use of the word demented, because Scarlet Briar was by far the most clever character in Guild Wars 2. No joke. So right now we have the Twisted Marionette being back as an event that can be joined by anyone in a public version, and after this is over, the private version will still be available. What's quite interesting about the Marionette is that it is tied to the whole Scarlet type of mobs, meaning that it is bringing back some materials that we didn't have access to or had limited access to for a rather long time. This can already be felt if you have a look at Euros2pltc.com. Right here we have, if I'm not mistaken, the most supplied items, like the items that have been getting more supply. See here, the delta supply is rather high in the percentages. Jagged Twisted Watchwork Scraps, so that's related directly to the Marionette, and this has Watchworks in it, Watchwork Sprockets, as one would expect. It's the same here with the Twisted Watchwork Scraps right there. And everything else is pretty much tied to the Dragon Coffers. See the candy, the bars right there, the orbs, the Dragon Rolls. That's related to the Dragon Bash right there. Everything is in the Dragon Coffer. I think like the Tier 6 materials were also being supplied in the Dragon Coffers. So that's like reading between the lines right there. What else do we have? The Legendary Armory. This is very big. Why is it big? Because it is probably the second biggest quality of life patch we've had in Guild Wars 2 after the Wardrobe. The Wardrobe was already 7 years ago, but it was quite big because we could get all of our skins at the same place. We didn't have to like break an item to apply its skin to another one. It was so much better to do it that way. So right there we got the other big quality of life update, and it is literally having impacts everywhere on the economy, which is the reason why it is very important to pay attention to what's happening right now. So any legendary item that you bind to your account will be entered into the armory. Makes sense. Any legendary item entered in the armory will be available for everyone. That is good. You no longer need to use shared inventory or bank space to transfer legendary items from a character to another. That's what we expected. Account-bound items will be automatically entered into the armory once you log into each of the characters. So, first thing you should do is naturally log onto all your characters. right? You might not remember it, but maybe like you had a dagger on an elementalist or a staff on a thief or something. You completely forgot about it. Just log on to everyone. Get all your items. So that's exactly what I say. Please take a moment to log on to every character. So that's good. I mean, Ironet has improved so much in their communication and way of addressing the general public lately. That is exactly what we're wishing for. Any newly earned legendary items that binds an acquisition will automatically be entered into your legendary armory. So that's good. Legendary items that binds when equipped will not be entered until you attempt to equip them. Okay. I only have 3 legendaries, so that was easy. See, you only have 3 for now, because the biggest impact of the armory existing is that it is no longer worth it to have like 1 legendary on your main character for the skin or the stat swapping, the ease of using, etc. And then like ascended weapons with all the stats on all your other characters. Right now, it is actually going to be more worth shooting directly for the legendary weapon. It is going to be so much more worth, because the more alt characters you're going to be making, the more interest there is going to be in having legendary items in your armory. So let's just go quickly over this. Like it's they're basically explaining the stuff. So you apply these choices, equipment templates. I mean, this goes very nicely into the template stuff, which is so good. And also, I agree with you, Sam. Communication has been so good. 0 transportation costs. That's of very low impact, to be fair. I personally had like 2,000 charges, so I'm kind of okay on that end. But I guess I'm going to be keeping them now. You know, I'm not going to have a use for them anymore. The Legendary Armory can unlock as many of a single item as you can equip. Access to the Eye of the North no longer requires the Path of Fire expansions are unlocked for any character shortly after reaching level 80, and that's kind of good. I like that. Fix the bug for the Ice Beast, and okay, so we don't really care about that. Other general stuff. Added a new button to view and swap build and equipment templates without using keybinds or opening the hero panel. That's kind of nice. I didn't pay attention to that. A new button to the skill bar. Let's have a look at it very quickly. Ooh, indeed. Okay, alright. That's very good. I like this. That's good. That's a good stuff. I mean, you kind of need to know what's up, or can you like hover over them? Okay, it does say the name of the template, so that's pretty good. Okay, yeah, that's definitely good. I like this. This is great. This is actually great. Guild Wars 2, biggest quality of life in an MMO like ever. Bit blind. Yeah, I mean, the glasses are for show. The glasses are for show. Drag and drop and equipped items. Okay, so that's completely good. That's completely okay. Individual equipment slots can now be copied from one equipment template to another. So that's the same way as we were doing with builds, I assume. So that's pretty good. Legendary creatures that previously had a slumbering weapon can now toggle the visual effects via a checkbox. That's pretty okay. Pretty okay. Added new Mystic Forge recipes. 3 symbols and a Philosopher's Stone for a random symbol. 3 charms and a Philosopher's Stone for a random charm. This is very good. This is actually very, very important. Why? Because we were in a situation, like a lot of people didn't realize it. Enko called it quite often on his stream, but controlled symbols were dropping far less than the other ones. With this, we have actually a way of making sure that the prices of symbols and charms are streamlined, right? There is always going to be a cheaper one. Like if you go into the trading posts and you look for, okay, let's look very quickly. Upgrade components, weapon sigils. We're going to look for exotic ones. Okay, yeah, I mean, you can gamble for it, but it's going to be, like, why favor it? Now, we're going to look at prices. See, this one has pain. This one has pain as well. This one also has element pain. This one also has pain, etc. Like, the cheaper ones have pain, and then an enhancement, also kind of cheap. So, the control price, the control symbol price will be dependent on this. There is a lot of supply, and you can always salvage them to get the cheaper symbols. So it's going to be a good way to make sure the price stays normal. looking at the way it's working, it's a random symbol, a random charm. So you have like a third of a chance to land on the one you want. I guess they made it like 33%. I'm gonna test it. I'm gonna test it just to see if that's indeed the way it works. I guess. Can I actually get cheap symbols or something? Okay, just symbol. Yeah. Enhancement is 13 silver. I guess I'm gonna like get a lot of them and do some tries. So like I actually got some in my bank. So I'm gonna try that out, but I assume it's like three-way. It's 33% each. And that's the way it should be working. So basically for every 9 symbols, you get one you're looking for. So at most, the price of the most expensive symbol or charm cannot be more than 9 times the cheapest one. And the cheapest one is decided by whatever drops really hard in price. Price of cheaper ones probably gonna go up now, won't they? I mean, not too much, right? Because they say it's a difference of like 9 times. Knowing Barons, they bulk buy all cheap sigils, salvage them, and then hike the prices for them. That is your assumption, right? Knowing Barons, they would bulk buy and do that. Actually, not all Barons are bad. It feels like I'm making some sort of like apology video. Not all Barons are bad or something, but it's probably going to be a case of Barons actually realizing before the general public that it is not worth under a certain price, and then everybody's just going to keep rushing at them, right? I mean, let's look at it very quickly. We're going to open Excel in a blank workbook. There we go. So we're gonna like hard zoom to make it very simple. Let's say that is enhancement. So you paid 108, you got back 138. You did 9 rolls. I mean, no, you did like 3 rolls. So you used 3 Philosopher's Stones. You used like a third of a Spirit Shard. For a third of a Spirit Shard, you got this times 0.25. Okay, and then minus what you paid at the start, which is that much. You got 9 silver for a third of a Spirit Shard. So you got 27 silver per Spirit Shard. Is that really worth it? That's not really worth it. So nobody would do that. Alright, but this recipe is still very good because it's gonna make sure that you can't have one of them that's like way too expensive. Like we saw the control symbol prices actually go quite mad. I think it went to almost 2 gold or something like this. With this recipe, that would not happen. Come on, Gears2bltc.com. Don't be this slow. Symbol of control. See, that's Enko's favorite item. It's alright. I think it went almost up to 2 gold. Yeah, see, almost up to 2 gold. 186, 171. That won't happen again with that recipe existing. What else do we have? We have new items and promotions. Okay, can't hate on that. But yeah, anyways, that's it for the contents of the patch. And then what do we have, as a matter of fact, on Gears 2 BLTC? If we want to analyze what's happening at a very basic level, the first thing we look at is naturally this. The evolution is supply. As I said earlier, this item right there, this item right there, these are both related to the marionette returning. So we can shove these away. The stabilizing matrix supply going up is directly related to the armory, so we're going to talk about that one last. The rest is, of course, tied to the dragon coffers, except for the Chime of Brilliance, which has probably been dumped on the trading post because people now realized the price would be controlled by other symbols. You can't just hike the price up on these anymore due to the recipe we were talking about just a second ago. The stabilizing matrices is because people don't need so many ascended gear anymore. That is correct, but you only get stabilizing matrices on fractal rings, I believe. So yeah, so Brilliance is costly since it's used for crafting scholar runes. Yeah, but we're gonna see a little bit later that scholar runes are not gonna be as prevalent anymore, and that's also related to the armory. So I think that's it for what we can talk about here at like a surface level. So we're gonna move on to the next tab. Here we have the items that have dropped in price. Okay, we can ignore the confetti infusion and stuff like that. What is actually important to look at is Mystic Mode. So as we said earlier, This new forged recipe that has control over symbol and charm pricing, this is a direct conclusion of that. The Mystic mode now has sort of a cap in value, which is decided by its lowest priced component. Right? The Excel sheet I did moments earlier that said basically you can keep rolling with the cheapest one and see that's what you're gonna get. By paying like a gold, you get for sure one of each if it's three-way proper RNG. So this cannot go up in price forever. Salvage dignity. This is related to the armory. The price of that went down due to the armory. Why? Because everybody is salvaging ascended gear that they don't need anymore. The armory makes it so that you can share legendary gear across all your accounts. So if you have made a single legendary back piece, now you need no other back piece on your account whatsoever. Everybody can use that legendary back piece in all of their equipment templates. So every other ascended back piece you had, salvaged, it goes. Which means that the salvage dignity can now be in everybody's hands and is going to be dumped on the trading post. I actually bought one because I needed it for the achievement, which reminds me that I need to reorder the other ones for the achievement. So for the people who don't know it, there is this achievement which is called the Fractal Reliquary. It's an item which is tied to fractals, as the name implies. And you would want, probably at some point, to get your hands on it. In order to get your hands on it, the best way to do it is to do it now by getting these salvaged items for cheap. As it says in the description, ascended amulets have a small chance to yield this. Here it's ascended rings have a small chance to yield this. Earlier I talked about the dignity. Backpacks have a small chance of yielding this. See, this is why you need to seize the occasion. Right now they are being sold under their usual price. So you grab them now. And if you want to make it into an investment, you buy a few extras of them now, because people who are going to come back later in the game might not have ascended gear and might want to do that collection. It's probably going to be the same for people who are going to be gearing up in End of Dragons. They're probably not going to go instantly for the ascended on each characters, but they might want to complete the collection. So, an occasion for you to sell it. Marines is costly since it is recording story. Is it still advisable to depend on RNG? If it's a proper three-way, then it's fine. Which is why I will need to try it out. Actually, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna salvage a lot of cheap sigils and runes. You know, I'm gonna do that. Can we get that item by spamming Dora marches and getting the amulets and salvage it, getting ourselves rather than spending? I believe so. You should check with one amulet whether it is salvageable or not, because not all amulets can be salvaged. This is an amulet. I mean, it's the anniversary one, so I'm not going to salvage it, but I guess it is salvageable. See, that one cannot be salvaged. That's what I mean. Not all of them can be salvaged. So there you go. Point proven. Moving onwards, however, hello T-Conk. Or TC Orc, I don't know how that's supposed to be pronounced. We see a lot of runes that have dropped in price, right? Super Rune of the Crate has dropped, Super Rune of the Berserker has dropped, and probably a lot of others have dropped in price. Which is also related to the Armory, because now if you have a legendary, 6 legendary runes, you can use them on every piece of equipment you have across all of your accounts. Not only in your legendary pieces. Symbol price is dropping yet. Not exactly. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say about runes and sigils is if you have the legendary version of them, you can use them across all your account, which means that you can sell everything else. And this can be seen for a lot of runes and sigils and everything. Like earlier, you were talking about the superior rune of the Scholar. And, as a matter of fact, the price dipped and then recovered. I mean, it's right there, see? 5 gold almost. Like 4 gold 50, 4 gold 60, you know, in that range. It dropped to 1 gold, and now it's back up to 3 gold. Why? Because it is currently being traded under the crafting price. And that's a rune you cannot salvage. That cannot be salvaged. this can only be crafted. There are some runes and sigils that you cannot get from existing equipment. So that's one of these cases. And that's also why the price of some charms will still be rather high, same for symbols, if they are needed for the meta gear. But as more and more people get legendary runes and legendary sigils, there is going to be less demand for this, unless it comes from newer players. So all my runes before the release of the Armory, this was so predictable. Of course Echelon, but not everybody paid attention to it. And right now we're still talking about surface level stuff. So the Delta cell on Salvage Grandeur was up because there were 2 listed below 100 gold, I believe, and people are hiking the price up on that. It's going to be the same on a lot of these salvage items right there. Pristine Toxic Spore samples, I'm going to sell mine, I guess. Superior Sigil of Force, the price on that one went down so bad. Like, giga bad. No joke. See, my lads, this is a dip. So the price was at 354 3-4 months ago, and it went as low as 50 silver. Yeah, most went up. So this is actually hilarious to me, because I had a comment on YouTube. I need to show you guys that, because that was actually golden. I think the person wouldn't mind it. See? Hey, how about those Superforce Sigil prices now? Maybe you and other rich people have decided this tool won't use this method on Superforce Sigil anymore and purposely drive the prices in the dirt. Someone or a group of people did it, I witnessed it. Beware newcomers. At the moment the Sigil are selling for 80, 90 silvers each. All it did to me was make me lose a little profit for my precursors, blah blah blah. This person is very toxic. Right? Like he just comes in, drops that kind of comment. What is important to understand here is this is someone who is reading at extreme surface level and thinking that everything is the fault of players, of like barons and everything. But actually, barons have little impact on the economy. That is a fact. The player base has much more impact, and what happened right there, it's probably all of the players who are using Superior Sigil of Force in their build now have legendary sigils all across their account. And you know what? If every player who played PvE and have a legendary sigil sells, let's say, 20 Superior Sigil of Force, that's a lot of Superior Sigil of Force that's gonna hit the trading post. Looks at Cassiano. That's duplication, and that's very different. Either way, that's gonna be it from me on that matter. Right now we were talking about the surface level of the armory changes. We talked about what everybody was salvaging, what prices are dropping right now, the fact that symbols and charms are still going to be in great demand because everybody will want at some point to make legendary runes and legendary sigils, and the fact that right now the price is gonna be kept like very even across the board. So right now the situation looks kind of good, right? Everybody's like, okay, armory, best patch, items got cheaper, pretty good, I can gear myself for cheap. Symbols and charms now have a cap on price, you know, that's pretty good as well. No, nobody can hate on that, right? And even the salvaged items that you need for the Fractal Reliquary collection, they're cheaper now, right? So everything's kind of good. What could possibly go wrong right now in the economy? Let me tell you, everything. Happy 14 Juillet, by the way. That's very nice of you. Thank you. I'm still waiting to see if there is something happening at the Eiffel Tower. Should be in 5 minutes. Who was the toxic person that talked about barons? Let's not call names, you know? Like, you can just look at the VOD if you're curious. It's just surface level reading. That was a prime example of it, and I needed that for the context of the video. I already covered all the movement on the Salvage X's and stuff. They aren't all cheaper, right? They all got cheaper for a brief moment of time, and then people actually saw that they could get their collections done with it and push them back up. There is also the case that on the matter of the ones that drop from rings, back pieces, etc., these are the most annoying collections, to be fair. If you want to make the PvP back piece, you actually need to play PvP. If you want to make the PvE one, you need to do fractals. If you want to make the Water Sword one, you need high Water Sword level. So that's gonna be like one item that people get, but it's gonna take them more time. The amulet is even worse. The rings are a pain as well. So all the trinkets take much more effort than the armor or weapons otherwise would. If I want to salvage all of my ascended weapons, I could just use 10k gold, right? I could get 4 legendary weapons for that. I could gear my characters. Not all of them for sure, but a good amount of them. So I could salvage a lot of ascended weapons. But you can't do the same with the trinkets. So that's why the prices didn't drop the same way across the board. Fratos already had an excess of extended ring. That is also true. Which is probably the way I'm going to be managing to get that. And this actually, Google, this lets me segue quite nicely into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is the impacts on the general ascended markets. So for the people who weren't there back in the days, in 2013, I believe, Guild Wars 2 released Ascended Gear, and I think that was with the Fractured patch. We're going to check that very quickly. Guild Wars 2 Ascended Equipment. Let's look at the trivia, I guess. There we go. Weapons, 2013. Accessories, 2013, 2013. Oh, Fractals of the Mist, late 2012. See, I am mistaken. It was late 2012 and then all across 2013. What did that do, actually? The thing that happened back then was that some items that were dirt cheap because they weren't used as crafting materials anymore actually got carried back up. It is quite hard to imagine it for players right now, but if I told you that thick leather sections, you see that item right now, buy 76 copper, sell 89 copper. This used to be at vendor price. If you salvaged items and had this in your inventory, it was actually easier, faster, and the same amount of gold to just vendor it back in 2012, and even, well, actually back through 2013. You know, the price dropped very quickly because you didn't need that. Everybody was wearing exotic. You could get exotic gear from dungeons. You could get exotic gear from open world. You could drop it from everywhere. So nobody ever needed to use these to craft themselves gear. So it was super cheap. And then was introduced the Ascended Gear. And then it became important to have that. Like, you would refine them into cured thick leather squares, and then you would use these to make... Where is it? Where is my son? Spool of thick Elonian cord. There. So you needed 50 of the refined ones, which meant 200 of the unrefined ones to make this. And with one spool, you could make one Elonian leather square. With Elonian leather squares, you could actually craft pieces for your gear. Like, you needed both the coat panel and the coat liner. See, you needed like 2 pieces right there. And to make that, you needed like 5 of these, so like hundreds of the base 8 copper item, which meant that the price actually went up on that very cheap item, right? It didn't become expensive, but it became more worth. And that was very important. Ascended equipment throughout the crafting method actually made some items not worth dirt. Then we came across currencies in Guild Wars 2, which is something I have talked about at length in many videos and streams and podcasts. I am not happy with currencies in Guild Wars 2. Why? Because they allow you to gear yourself very easily. And that means that crafting is left aside altogether, and that is not too good, because crafting was actually the best way to ensure the prices of materials and items would remain constant throughout time or follow the inclinations of the economy. It's not the case anymore when you make the items very easy to get. An example of what I mean is the raid vendor. So we're gonna go to that very quickly. I guess I could look for the aerodrome. If I look at the Lion's Arch aerodrome, we can find the NPC and then I can like show you what I mean. Basic magnetite exchange operative, that's my boy. And if it's not that my internet is slow, it's that the wiki is giga slow. See, right there you can get chests of gear with very limited amount of gold and some magnetite. The magnetite you get by playing the raids. Of course, this means that you might need multiple weeks, sometimes even multiple months, to be able to fully gear a character in Ascended. But this is also something you can get from doing fractals. This is also something you can get from doing PvP. And then all of the Ascended amulets and the rings and the accessories, you can also get that from Living Story vendors, which means that if you just play on the Living Story map, you can actually get yourself used like geared and trinkets for little to no cost. Of course, the whole trinket crafting came much later when it came to Ascended gear, so it's not really the point. My point is mostly when it comes to armor and weapons. This means that there is much less interest in the Ascended crafting materials, which means that there is less demand for the common crafting materials. And right now we are in a situation where this is gonna get aggravated. It's gonna get worse. And people don't realize that yet, but it's gonna mean that your materials are gonna be worth less. The way they did fractal currency with Intended was okay. I agree on that. Like, I think that people don't realize that the items that basically dropped the most in price were these. See, it costs 20 gold to craft an Elonian longcoat panel. It costs 20 gold to make one, right? The price is right now is 5 gold on the buy order. It's much less than 20 gold on the sell order. Why? Because people salvaged their Ascended armor. And they are now selling these crafting items much cheaper than they should be. Which means we had a crash right there. And it means that unless the demand somehow keys back up or something, which is probably not going to do, because everybody wants to have legendary gear now, then the price of materials is going to remain rather cheap. So that's going to be my analysis of that market. It was discounting the crafting price. Yeah, I like that. It was the same with the marks in PvP. I kind of like that. The whole making marks, I liked it. It was a better attempt. Having exchanges that are like one-to-one or like pure currency for gear, I'm not too keen on that. But yeah, so that's it. That's basically it. We are going to be in a situation where the price of common materials is probably going to be affected a little bit more than the other items, which are still going to be in demand. Because you're still going to need to get some runes and sigils if you haven't made all of them. And even if you've made all of them, you're going to need charms and symbols to make your legendary ones. Which means that you're going to need to salvage runes and sigils, which means that there's still going to be some demand for them. Or demand for people to salvage them for you, which works the same way, right? So, in my opinion, the end result of the Legendary Armory will be felt on the most basic markets for common crafting materials. What I hope for is that in End of Dragons, Arenanet brings us a lot of recipes, maybe purely for like decorating home instances, or decorating the guild hall, or maybe just for like consumables or other stuff that are going to require these. This is what I hope for. I hope that these items will find another use, because right now the future looks rather bleak for these items. I'm now not quite sure what I would end up doing with that knowledge. So yeah, so that's gonna be it for my appreciation of what the patch has done for the economy. I don't know if you guys have any questions in the chat, but otherwise I'm just gonna wrap it up by saying that now is the time once again to make the gear you want before End of Dragons, to ensure that you make your legendary runes and sigils, like the recipe is good, Sigils and runes are still oversupplied on the trading post for the cheaper ones. It is also a very good occasion for you to like work on your builds and everything leading up to EOD, so that you can actually start playing EOD fully geared and you can enjoy the new specializations without having to craft new gear. Right now you should be making legendary armor, legendary weapons, so that you can try the new specializations right away, without needing each time you want to change something in the build to go craft something again. So that's going to be my opinion on what you should do right now onwards to EOD. What ascended gear is even worth salvaging? Just things with upgrades worth over 1 gold. If the ascended gear your character is wearing came from a living story vendor, you get back volatile magic or unbound magic. If it came from the raid vendor, you get magnetite back. And if it was crafted, I think then it's not exactly worth it. I think then you should consider actually selling it for the 1 gold. Unless you are praying for that very small chance at getting one of the items I was showing earlier, the Elonian Longcut panel. I mean, that salvages from these crafted items or any ascended items. These are worth quite a bit, so I guess you should salvage everything. I guess you should salvage the ascended gear. Just on the off chance you get some items worth like that. I mean, even if you only get 5 gold by insta-selling it, that's still okay. That's still okay, in my opinion. So yeah, there you go. Weapons are a different matter, because the items for weapons, you cannot trade on the trading post. Only the armor crafting components can be traded. If they decide to make more account-wide Agony Infusion, these are going to skyrocket. I mean, yeah, like, Legendary Infusions are probably the next step. You're probably in the next step. And it's going to require probably a lot of +1s. So, we need to wait and see on that matter. And yeah, so I was saying it is worth salvaging for the magnetite. Why? Was it worth? Because the magnetite shards can be exchanged at the exchange operative for infusions. Like, you can actually get +5 infusions. It's stat infusions, not the best ones, but it's okay. You can roll for ascended amulets, like 10 gold in, and maybe a small chance to get 500 gold out, right? Still a gamble, still fun to do. And then you can also exchange them for items. Oh yeah, not at that guy, but inside the raid at Glenna. For instance, here in Spirit Vale, you can exchange these magnetite shards for ghostly infusions. For a lot of them, actually. Ghostly infusions. 1000 shards plus 20 gold. See, you can just exchange them. If you go for Hall of Chains, you can get Doom's Throne. It's 2k, I think. 2k of the of these ones. And there you go. Shrouded Bench. I think it's 400 gold. No, it's 260. I assume the price on that is also going to drop a bit as people realize that they can now use their shards for that purpose. So yeah, that's or gene energy clusters. Yeah, sure. You can also get gene energy clusters. That is correct. But yeah, that's what I meant. Like there are multiple implications of the of this Legendary Armory patch on the economy. Just to sum it up for YouTube, because this VOD is going to end on YouTube after being cut a little bit, the biggest impact is on the common crafting materials, because now there is going to be much less demand for ascended items to be crafted. Then there is going to be a change for all the currency vendors and currency you can get back from salvaging the ascended items. So that means that the living story vendors, people are going to use them less and less for the ascended gear. Same for the raid vendors. And that means ultimately that the other items you can get for, say, the currency are going to get cheaper and cheaper as people use their currency on something else than gearing themselves. Finally, on the matter of all the ascended gear being salvaged and that being dumped on the trading post, be it crafting components, as we said, for example, the Elonian Longcut panel, or the salvaged items for the Fractal Reliquary collections. All of these are going to have a major drop in price right now, but eventually they might kick back up as people come for Steam, come for EOD, and ultimately having new players means that there is going to be new demand. That is, of course, unless they decide to go straight for legendaries by abusing the credit card, which is also a possibility. With all this said and done, remember to like and subscribe. Follow me on YouTube, on Twitch. Follow me on Twitter. I wish to thank all of the wonderful Twitch subs, all of the wonderful patrons, all of the wonderful people supporting the content without necessarily putting in their money, but instead putting in their time and efforts. All of them are lovely, and so are you. I wish every single one of you some happy trading and to get rich.